Yes, I'm very excited. I've been thinking about this for some time, so I'm very excited.
This is the official launch party for the On Time, On Target podcast. So, what is the On Time, On Target podcast?
Well, the On Time, On Target podcast is an idea that I've had for about 8 years now. And it's interesting because my wife would probably say that I've actually had it longer because she found some notes of mine from 2008 where I talked about starting my business and getting some words out, and maybe even writing a book called On Time, On Target. So it's really interesting that I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's now is the time. Honestly, COVID-19 is part of that story. And I found similar themes with other folks I interviewed is some people are getting to do stuff now that they have not gotten to do because we're kind of at our homes the whole time.
So you've got a pretty cool history. Started as a fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm.
You are now a financial expert and the founder of Afterburner Financial. You've got a wealth of background and knowledge, and the podcast is not only going to share this knowledge that you have with your audience, but also you're going to give folks a little bit of motivation as well.
Well, I've always loved being a motivational speaker, and I got to do that in the military quite a bit. And as a commander, that's part of your job, is to keep your folks motivated and wanting to go out and do the mission for you. So it's just a privilege to get up in front and inspire people. And when you think about goal setting, a lot of folks think about, okay, financial goals, because a lot of things do revolve around money. But I want people to hit their career goals, their family goals, their spiritual goals, their health goals, whatever it is. That's what On Time, On Target is about, is breaking up the big goal into smaller steps so you can actually hit that end goal.
So by now, I think a lot of people are familiar with what a podcast is. Let's talk to people about where they can first find your podcast, and then let's give them a little sneak peek of maybe some of the topics we're going to be talking about.
All right, I like it. So to find a podcast, that's why we have this big sign that's bigger. It's bigger than us. And to enter $100. Enter to win $100.
So
right? But if you have an iPhone, you want to go to Apple Podcasts. I tried to practice earlier. It seems impossible. But there's your Apple Podcast app, and then if you have Android, you can go to iHeartRadio or Spotify, or if that's who you normally use. So that's where you can find it. When you're in there, just simply search Ankerstar. There's not enough of us around for you to get confused. Or you can put in On Time, On Target, and both of them, you'll see my face pop up on a red, white, and blue square. And we will, you can now either subscribe or follow, and then you're going to get the different lists from there. So that's how you find it, and that's how you become a subscriber, and that's how you enter win the $100, since I just kind of went through the whole drill there for you.
So COVID,
yes.
A lot of people have personally taken a financial hit.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's some job loss involved there. You are trying to give them real life steps, goals, benchmarks, if you will,
mm-hmm.
for them to really take back control of their own finances, and also motivate them and make them realize that it's never too late to take control of your finances.
Right. You are always exactly where you are, and you can look in the rearview mirror and be mad at yourself or not. It's a waste of time, honestly. It's COVID happened. Who saw that coming? Pretty much nobody. So you're either ahead of the game or on track or behind the game. The number one thing you need to do is figure out exactly where you are. And then once you know where you are, if you have to play catch up, then you do. You simply put a plan in place to go forth and do what you need to do at that point. If you're ahead of the game, then you survive the COVID financial hit a little bit better than others may have. But it's really, you have to take stock of where you are and get your game plan together.
So once people subscribe, what are they going to see? What is the type of information that you're going to share with them on this podcast?
Well, the first ones are the serious kind of what is investing. So some people think, it's a casino, and you don't want to get involved. And so that's that's the first, is some core concepts in the first 5 episodes. And then I go into how much money should you have at certain ages. And I can't break down every age, but the guidelines that I used are 25, and all the way up to 65 every 10 years. And I use a multiple of your income. So you can see that if you have that multiple, then you are on track, and you know that whatever you're doing is good enough. So that's what those episodes are. Then we have the thought leaders. And now I'm going to branch out into really what's on people's minds, which is after this launches, I'm going to say, hey, put your question in On Time, On Target, because that's really the purpose of the podcast, is for me to answer the same questions to all of you that I'm answering on a regular basis as a financial planner.
Why the name? Why On Time on Target?
Well, I think on time on target, first of all, since I dropped bombs in combat as part of my training and flying the F-117 stealth fighter, and that's why the black flight suit. Still holding on to the glory days, if you will. I'll admit that. But sure, on time on target means when you launch out, you are doing every little step that you need to do to put the bombs on the actual target that you're supposed to go out and hit for your country. So if it's a building, then you go out and make that building go away. If it's a bad person, you go out and make sure that that bad person stops being bad. Sometimes stops breathing in the process, but whatever you're called upon to do. You need to treat, in my opinion, your life the same way with your finances, is figure out exactly where you want to be and then start taking all those little steps to get there. And you can always change your mind, but at least if you don't do anything, you'll end up where you thought you were going.
Now, Steve, despite all of your success, you're a humble guy. Can we share a little bit of kind of the story? Because it's a story that is so unique to you and it's really quite special.
Well, thank you. And it's also episode 1. So I will just turn that into a teaser, other than saying I flew. I was very fortunate to be the right place at the right time. And I will tell you, there will be all kinds of pilots out there that say the exact same thing. I was in the appropriate position at the right rank and position in the squadron where I got to go out and drop the first bomb of the shock and awe campaign of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003. Some people remember shock and awe. Some people remember Donald Rumsfeld, because that was kind of his idea. The rest, the first podcast episode I put out is an hour and 20 minutes. So literally, if you don't want to hear the story, skip that one and go on to number 2.
Story,
because
I'm here to say listen to it.
Because I spend a lot of time going into the detail there. So if you want to hear it, it's there for you, just so you kind of know who's talking to, who you're listening to, if you choose to subscribe. So that's why I did it that way.
It gives you a little background about your personal experience and why you are where you are today and why we're launching this podcast. And, you know, we have to kind of talk about the background a little bit. I mean, what you did is pretty cool. There's not too many people that did it. That's the flight suit that he referenced.
Yep.
So cool background too.
Thank you. The background she's talking about, there's airplanes right above. Of course, Kobe gets a prominent position because folks that know me know that he was an inspiration for me, my favorite athlete of all time. And of course, terrible tragedy earlier this year for that to happen. And that was a gift from my daughter for Father's Day. So it's a prominent location. So good job, little buddy.
Now, if somebody wants to connect with you through this podcast, what kinds of opportunities are there out there for folks who are watching either today or in the future to engage in your podcast?
Well, really endless. If you go to OTOTnow.com, which is just on time, the first letters of on time on target, now.com is my website for the podcast. And if you like listening to me talk, which you should if you're a subscriber, if you say, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, I want more, that's where you can go. I do have some follow-on stuff that I get together in small groups, some around the morning open. A group of us get together, straddle in the market for an hour, and we talk about long-term investing, short-term investing. We go around the world, and we also do headlines of the day. So if you're kind of an investor that likes to stay on the cutting edge, we're way better than CNBC because we're going to give it to you straight. We don't have any agendas, no sensationalism. You're going to get straight scoop. And I love it. It's what I do every morning anyway. So it's a privilege for me just to go webcast and record and send that out to folks.
What I think is really cool too is this podcast is for the people that are super interested, right, in the investment world, and that is part of their DNA. But with the motivation side too, there's folks like me that want to tune in because we all should be invested in our personal finance, right? But if you need a little kick in the pants or need some goal setting, it's there for you as well.
Exactly. And the same philosophy applies. And it probably is me not being able to make a decision on whether I wanted to go into like a motivational podcast or actually finance, right? It's around finance, but you're going to get plenty of motivation. And the 11 speakers we brought in for the Financial Thought Leader series, those are motivational stories. Every single one's unique. They're also educational. But when you hear these folks, it's amazing. But I also, when I look at the things I've done in my life as far as becoming a fighter pilot, I've had 3 goals. So I wanted to become a fighter pilot. I made that happen. I wanted to get married and have a wonderful family. They're in the room with me, just off camera. So I made that happen. And then the third thing is I wanted to open my own business and go into investment management. So those are big goals. And I know that. And it's the 1,000 little steps. I tell my wife, Irene, this all the time. It's the 10,000 hurdles that trip people up. But if you go into it knowing there are 10,000 hurdles between you and your goal, and you just know big deal, knock back 2 or 3 a day, guess what? You'll get there. So that's the point of all of it.
That's awesome. You mentioned the Financial Thought Leader Series.
Yes.
So these are the guest speakers that you interview as part of your podcast. Talk to us a little bit more about the types of people that when people subscribe, they're going to be able to hear their stories. And we're going to actually, folks, have some of those guests on in just a few minutes. That's your tease for this part.
There you go.
Stay
exactly.
Plus, we're going to tell you about how to win $100. So hold on there too.
Right. I see it. We're looking in our webinar room right now. It looks like we have 7 of the 11 in the room. So thank you, folks, for being patient. We'll stop talking. We'll let you guys get on here. And the whole point, first of all, the Financial Thought Leader Series is people ask me questions all the time. I mean, that's kind of my job as a financial planner, investment manager. People ask me questions, and I have to say, I don't know a whole lot. So when people say, how does a bank work? I'm like, I don't know, but Scott Schneiderman does. And I went to college with him 31 years ago. And somebody's like, well, how do nonprofit works? And I go, well, I know Chick Herbert, who ran Special Olympics Iowa for 9 years. So let's get him online and title it appropriately so people can see, and if you want to click on it and hear how to do some of that stuff, you can. So I'm trying to bring that to you so you can self-educate. And a lot of the times, the folks that listen to podcasts are do-it-yourselfers, and I got that. So in another business, I manage money for a living, and people pay me to do that, and it's a privilege, but it is not cheap. There are people out there who are like, I will never trust anybody else. I think I should do it myself. I love those people. That's what the podcast is for. Tune in for free.
What do you think? Should we introduce some of these people? Is it time?
I think it's time for Danny, and I know that Danny's probably been ready for a little while. So we're going to try to bring her up on camera here.
So, folks, Danny is Danielle Rocco. She's an author, devoted to a soldier, also a coach. And we see the picture of Danny now. An amazing person to have on camera. One of the speakers, there she is on the Financial Leader Series. Hey, Danny.
Hey, I see you guys, and I'm hoping you see me.
We do. Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
So last time we talked, you said you were going to be in the Hamptons tonight at a wine tasting party. Is that where you are?
It was the Vineyard, and yes. So I don't know if you can see. So yes, there you go.
Nice. Well, thanks for taking a couple of seconds to be with us. It's important for people out there who are going to hear your story, hear how you support veterans and everything that you do, being a CEO at a young age. So I want them to not only listen to the story, but be able to put a face with the voice that they're hearing in the podcast. So
well, it's a little boat ridden and beach ridden, but it's here. I'm here.
Yes.
Oh, you look great.
And
You
we're
look great.
cheersing you with our water.
Yes.
We wish we could turn it into wine.
Well, I do have coffee. I am in coffee. I said I better wait to have the wine until after. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping in, Danny. And we're going to talk, I think, either tomorrow or in the next few days about some other project we're going to work on. So I'll be in touch with you. Okay.
All right. Have fun.
All right. Have a blessed night.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you. So Danny is one of the speakers on the Financial Thought Leader Series, and she's just one of a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we've got a whole slew of folks that we want to introduce folks to. So our next person is James Short. He's a filmmaker with Inwood Road Films. And through the magic of social media and clicking buttons, where's James coming to us from?
Well, I want James to tell you that because he has an exciting story. He used to live here in Austin. That's where I met him. We became friends through a mutual friend who's also in the Financial Thought Leader Series. But James, why don't you say hey and tell us where you're calling in from?
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
I'm at a little bit different elevation here. I'm in 9,000 feet in Breckenridge, Colorado.
Nice. I'll be there in about a week.
But loving it. Yeah. What's that?
I said I'll actually be there in about a week.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, it is gorgeous. Rode about 20 miles today up to Frisco and back, which was awesome. And yeah, I just cooled off just in time for this webinar here. So it's perfect timing.
There you go. I'm glad you made us a priority. James, you'll hear in his episode that he is a movie maker, and independent movie maker, and he lives out in, I'm not supposed to say Hollywood, so I have to say Venice Beach, because I said Hollywood movie maker, and he about shot me for saying that. So that's what he's not. But James, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to do the interview. I think it went great, and I have a little sizzle reel that I sent out today. Hopefully you saw that.
We got a little bit of a delay, I think, in the connection there. But of course, Austin, a hub for filmmakers. I kind of want to talk with him more and pick his brain a little bit. So he's still making movies, just not living in Austin anymore. And so one of these series will feature you talking with James, really about his path, right? His journey.
You bet. He started in digital media and moved into movie making, chased a dream. And that's the kind of story I want to bring to people. So, all right, let's see if Brittany is.
Brittany one more time?
She says she's ready on text, so we're going to try this one more time. So, Brittany, if you can hear us, we're going to start asking you questions to pop up on film there. And we've already talked about you for a few minutes. So,
hey, beautiful Brittany, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Awesome. Welcome to the On Time, On Target podcast launch party.
Yes, and we've already talked. You bet. We've already talked about how we met and how you humbled me at Orange Theory, made me want to quit. No, I'm just kidding. I quit on my own. But and we've already talked about your passion for teaching and math and coaching. So do you want to share where you're at right now? Our last guest was in Denver. We thought he was in California. Are you here in Texas, or are you at a secret location?
I am actually in Michigan, Beat 'em Up Tigers.
There you go.
An hour north of Detroit. So yeah, Austin, Texas is home, but I'm traveling right now.
All right. Well, sounds good. Well, hey, appreciate your candor of sharing us. We talked a little bit about your company while we were having trouble bringing you up there. But tell us a little bit about Prove It real quick, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I don't know if anybody's ever tried the keto diet, but it's just not my jam. College athlete here, and so I'm a firm believer, like, eat right, work out, you'll get results. And like Steve and I experienced, Orange Theory doesn't give you everything you want. So it's a powder you mix with water, biohacks your body into that state of ketosis within the hour. So you get all of the benefits as if you were doing the diet, sleep, energy, mood, fat loss. And it's just been a perfect alignment with coaching and teaching. So I'm about 2.5 years in, and I'm going to keep charging on.
And
I'm going to call Brittany.
Well, you're definitely going to call her after this. It is a financial show, so of course we put some numbers out there. Brittany, even as humble as she is, she did share. I teased it out of her. She said she surpassed her teaching salary in 4 months with her entrepreneurial endeavor. So, I mean, you can't beat numbers like that. And she's got a nice big goal for this year. And I wish you the best. And I know you're going to hit it. I just know it. I see it already.
Well, thank you so much. It's honestly the most rewarding thing, helping others with health and wellness, but getting rewarded for it. So I feel like I've got the best of both worlds.
All right, you bet. Well, thanks again for stopping in. We'll let you get back to Michigan. Hopefully a little cooler weather up there. And thanks for stopping by.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night. That's a great story. Young, youthful, with an idea, just making it happen.
Yeah, and she shares how young she is in the podcast. I'm not going to tell you. You got to listen to her episode. So.
Should we tell folks how to subscribe to the podcast?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to do it this time?
No,
Since I suffered through it last time. So the world's biggest sign, enter to win $100. I'm going to look over at my team right now. Are we seeing some screenshots show up, or are we not? It appears no. So you can enter to win. If you have an Apple phone, you can go to Apple Podcasts. If you are on a non-Apple phone, then you can go to iHeartRadio or Spotify, or if you have a subscription there, you can just start there. Search for Ankerstar or On Time, On Target. Either one of those will get you to my podcast square. You will see some red, white, and blue. You'll see some finance, and you'll see my face. That's how you know you are in the right place. And from there, you can, if you're going through Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe. And if it's iHeartRadio or Spotify or Deezer or any of those others, it's going to be follow. Once you've done all that, take a picture of your phone or screenshot and put that into the OTOT launch party room. And that will get you an entry into our drawing for $100 that I have our team working on right over there.
Easy breezy. See, this is why I didn't want to do it.
There you go.
Got it.
I have a feeling I'm going to say that again, that whole spiel.
I may jump in. But we had teased this next guest. His name is Matt Netley, an entrepreneur and COO. The business is Q1 Media. How did you get to know Matt?
Well, it was, this is a good story. We didn't tell this in the podcast, but hopefully he'll pop up here while we're talking. So we just moved to Texas. This was like 6.5 years ago, and we were at a social gathering in our neighborhood, which we absolutely love. And we heard, we're at a party with music, and we heard somebody else's party with music out there. And I'm like, and we were all joking. It's just like, we're in the wrong place. We need to go find whoever that guy is. About like,
because you both like that music better.
No, it was just louder. It's like, well, clearly, if he's going to drown out my party, I better go meet the guy. We didn't. We met at the school because our kids are the same age. But we had a conversation about where we lived, and I'm like, oh yeah, you could throw a baseball and hit my house. And I'm like, well, I could probably hear your music from my house. And he's like, ooh, you heard that? And I was like, yes, I know who it is. So, hey, buddy, welcome.
Hey, what's up, Cruiser? How are you, man?
Living the dream, having fun, fighting
That's
some
awesome.
Technology. I think maybe it's seamless on the outside. We'll see.
Yeah, this is almost like one of your Zoom happy hour parties with Shorty on there. I saw you had a guest from Michigan.
Yeah, right.
I'm rocking party gear at all times, and you even had a earlier podcast guest that was calling from a winery or from wine country. And
yeah, Martha's Vineyard.
You know what? I didn't wait till after the podcast. I'm already into a little bit of red wine here. So,
well,
cheers.
It's good to see Sparty double represented, especially right after somebody else from Michigan showed up. So, tell us what you liked about being on the podcast.
You know what? I don't do a ton of interviews, so that was probably the first more formalized, outside of a business meeting setting, deep dive that I've done into the story of Q1 and the journey that my partners and I have taken, and the friends we've met along the way, and it felt pretty good, actually. I got a chance to listen to it today, and you and I had talked about it a little bit earlier, and I was like, you know what, if I screw something up, let's go back and maybe edit it or just cut it out. Right. And you know what, you did a really nice job of kind of keeping me comfortable and let me tell the story. So it was just a lot of fun.
Well, I tell you, for those that are out there, if you were in this exact situation, I felt this way when I worked in the military. I loved it. It was amazing, but I also felt that I might not be hitting my full potential. And I certainly had an entrepreneurial itch that I needed to scratch. And Matt was at Dell for 4 years, and he made a comment, which I don't think I'd ever actually thought of it that way, but he said, I wanted to bet on myself. And you're looking at a man that has bet on himself, and he's made it happen for 16 years in a row. So congratulations to you and your business. Obviously, 16 years encompasses a global financial crisis, and our new topic of the day, every day, COVID-19. So it's not easy. It never is easy. And his podcast will tell you, the young listener, it's not easy. But if you believe in yourself and you're willing to bet on yourself, that's the guy you need to follow in his footsteps.
Can we tease real quick a little bit about Q1 Media? What is it?
So Q1 Media today is a SMB-focused digital media services firm. So we work with about 300 small to mid-sized ad agencies across the country. And we're really an extension of their agency, and we're their digital experts. In a lot of cases, our partners might only have 1 or 2 digital people in-house. Even if they have a more robust digital team in-house, they'll still come to us and work with us to try and understand what are the next gen technologies out there? What are the highest level targeting capabilities that I can execute for my clients? And we build multi-year partnerships with these firms, and in many cases we will walk into their clients together. So a Q1 director or account executive might be essentially a white labeled agency person for that company, and really their expert. So that's been going pretty well for us. I think ever since we pivoted the company and really got back to our roots a couple of years ago, we've gotten back on the growth train. So it's been a lot of fun. Of course, COVID disrupts everything, right? It makes it a little bit more interesting. But you know what? If you're in this game, you should expect the hits to keep coming. It's always going to be something, and you just have to adapt. So we've done an okay job with that.
How you respond to adversity, and it will always come, will make or break it.
Absolutely. And his story is a testament to that. And you'll get even a better version if he's not being taped live, to where it can go out to everybody too. Get down into the real stuff. So Matt, love your friendship, man. Thanks for everything. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for doing an episode with me. It's great.
Thanks a lot. Love you.
Congratulations to Matt. I love what you said. I chose to bet on myself, which is what Matt said. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. So when you're ready, be careful. Have it thought through a little bit, but Matt's certainly somebody you should listen to their story as well as some others that are out there.
And if you subscribe to the podcast, you can hear Matt's story. Want me to do it this time?
There you go.
Yeah,
give it a shot.
So here's how you do it. So if you're an Apple person, you can subscribe. You just need to search Ankerstar or On Time, On Target. And if you're an Android person, you can follow On Time, On Target using iHeartRadio or Spotify. And for the giveaway, we're giving away $100 at the end of this, folks. If you subscribe or follow the podcast, take a picture of it, put it in the event page. We'll check it out, and somebody's going to get $100 tonight.
Absolutely. I can't wait to get your Venmo so I can send it to you right away after we do the final drawing. So
cheers. So we have another guest lined up, and this one actually, I think I might know too. So we have Elise Baines O'Connell, who is a co-owner of the Woodhouse Day Spa, which is an Austin area, if you're joining us from outside of the Texas realm. Amazing spa. I mean, ladies, this is just great. But talk to us, Steve, what you talk about, a little teaser in the podcast.
Well, you talk about somebody betting on themselves. When you talk about, there she is. Hey, Elise.
Hey.
Hi.
You talk about somebody taking a risk and taking on a huge project. Mine was kind of like, hey, I'm going to like register for $350 and then I'm going to go get my licenses and then I'm going to work from my house. Elisa's story she went right to the varsity level. With a luxury spa. So I'm ready for her to tell us a little bit about her spa and her experience. Thanks for being on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me, Rochelle. It's good to see you.
You too. We love Woodhouse. So how did it all come to fruition, Elise?
Well, I did not do it on my own. I do have a business partner, Susanna Thornton, and she actually came to me with the idea for the venture, and it sounded fantastic. And we were filling a need that the Cedar Park, Round Rock, Georgetown community did not have. And that was with a luxury day spa, a destination spa in your own backyard, providing affordable luxury in the form of massage, facials, nails, waxing services. And we wanted to do what we could to bring those services to our community so that we didn't have to travel quite so far into Austin.
Well, you are well loved, and all of us so appreciate you being there, male, female, young, old. It's got something for everybody.
Yes, and we were talking.
Absolutely.
The one thing, unfortunately, with COVID, we go into the podcast kind of in depth is how that's affected the services, and no couples massages. Yeah. So I know how
Correct.
Those are, right? So that's a big chunk of revenue. So I hear you have a little one running around that may try to guest on our host. You probably don't.
I do. I think he has just gone out in the backyard to let the dog in. But yeah, he's a handful. He was a surprise in the mix of all of the spa, but he is a delight and a joy, and I couldn't do life without him.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to stop by and tell your story tonight.
Absolutely. Good luck to you.
All right. Thank you.
Good luck, Elise. Good to see you. Yeah, COVID, right now, it's affecting every business owner, every human on the planet. I mean, I don't think I'm overstating that right now. So I would be so interested in listening to her story on your podcast about how she is weathering the storm.
Oh yeah. And not only are you going to hear that from the business owner perspective, but now you're going to hear the other side of the COVID. So think, if you will, what life would be like if, you have a business which involves money, and then the COVID-19 shuts everybody down. The Treasury Secretary comes online and says, hey, just go to your nearest bank and we're going to get you money real quick. Well, that's our next guess is, imagine if you were a banker and yeah, exactly. And so here's people standing at the door and you don't have guidance yet. So Scott, hope to see your face here in a second. This is Scott Schneiderman. We went to Iowa State together. We were in the same fraternity together, known each other for way long time. So welcome to the show, Scott. How's it going?
Good to see you, Steve. Greetings from Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
I was going to ask you if you're in South Dakota or in Iowa right now. So
yeah, no, sunny South Dakota. Just out visiting, doing a customer visit this afternoon that went a little longer than I thought. So my apologies for being a little bit late to the party, but pretty excited for you on this launch of the podcast. And it was was a lot of fun to participate in it, and just kind of excited about it.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Scott, as the president of Frontier Bank, how have the last few months been for you?
Yeah, Steve was kind of alluding to that a little bit. I think we had, like everybody, we had kind of quite an experience going through this COVID epidemic or outbreak or crisis or whatever you want to call it. I think the story I shared with him had to do with sitting on my couch one night watching President Trump and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, who's our primary regulator, say, I think it was on a Tuesday evening. They said, on Friday this program will be running. You can go down to your local bank, you can get your application in, get it approved, and get it funded with the money. And I about fell off my chair, thinking
right,
thinking how is this ever going to happen? And Steve and I share a common passion for aviation. He's obviously taken it to a different level. I'm a private pilot, but I also shared with him an analogy that kind of came to mind for me of that PPP loan process. It was like being dropped out at 40,000 feet with all the parts and instruction manuals you needed to build an airplane, and your job was to build that airplane before you hit the ground. I mean, we had people coming in. We didn't know what the rules were. We didn't know exactly what the parameters were. We didn't know how anything worked. But we were just really trying to serve our customers.
We appreciate you. I'm sure there's so much more depth into this story that the podcast, the specific episode shares, but you've weathered it. I know it's still ongoing. And just thanks for being here.
Yeah, and when you get two pilots start talking aviation, I could hear the other people probably groan. This is going to go on for hours now, so we will stop all the aviation talk, even though I love that analogy. And Scott, really appreciate you taking the time to come on. If you want to hear some of the 4 questions, his was more of a technical interview. I'm asking him about everything and where he almost got uncomfortable with, how does cash flow in and out of the bank like I had an ulterior motive or something. But I was asking him about reserve levels and how that works. So if you want to know about a bank, listen to his episode and he'll let you know.
I'm going to leave this real quick. I thought when you started into that story, Scott, that you were going to say, well, I had to figure out how to put my parachute together. But you actually had to build the plane. So it takes that to a whole nother level.
Right.
Very good. Well, thanks for having me, you guys.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
Enjoy Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Nice. So we've got a few more guests, just a couple more.
We do.
Our next guest is Jorge with Elite Financing Group. He's actually a mortgage broker.
Yes, you bet. And I've used Jorge, so this is going to be a quick infomercial. I used him right when I moved out here 6 years ago. My parents have moved here. Obviously, I have relationships through the community. And when somebody's like, who do I need to use? It's like, you need to go to Jorge. So he'll pop up here in a second so you can hear him talk and tell his story. And it's a good one. Starts as a university athlete. I mean, he's from Mexico. So there's really a cool story and a cool individual to work with. So how you doing, buddy? Welcome.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for having me.
You bet. Are you still at work?
Yep, we're busy. Yeah, it's nonstop right now. Thank goodness.
Yeah, I bet. Well, I was telling him before you popped on there, telling him your story about playing tennis at Baylor and taking a stab at the dream and being professional and then pivoting and finally finding your dream. And the one thing that I got out of your interview, which I really enjoyed, which I think others will, is the fact that, you were talking about how do you unlock yourself? How do you move kind of beyond, a self-imposed glass ceiling there? So give us just a little quick taste of that for the folks out there who are listening, so they'll listen to our episode together.
Well, I mean, my main thing about that interview was, and one of the best questions that I love to answer is how you can, what would you tell yourself, from your young self?
Right.
And I couldn't be more passionate about that part just because it took me a while to get out of my shell, right? I mean, I started at 23 years old working, and then by about 36 years old is where I figured, wow, there's just so much more. I can't have fear about life and success and everything that comes with it. And so just the limits that all of us put on ourselves, really. So it was over the last 6 years, just getting to know myself a little bit more and unlocking that potential and the skills and the leadership and just the passion that I have to, to help others. So has come out, and the goal is to just reach out and help as many people as possible.
Well, you're doing it in to everybody's calling right now, right? How can I refi? How can I get cash back out? What are my options?
Yeah.
I want 2%, Jorge. Stop telling me 3%.
We just did it.
It's the we'll talk to Jorge. He'll get you a better deal, right?
That's right.
So
that's right.
1%. No, I'm kidding.
He's human like anybody else. But what I will tell you is, if you get in a conversation with him, you're going to get the straight scoop. I like that as a military guy. It's like, let's not dance anymore. It's like, what are we talking here? And let's either do it or don't. And we move on from there. So one thing I didn't tell you in person, but I know you got 3 little ones, and I will tell you that listening to you talk, I think you're probably they've got a good role model in their dad. So you just keep
I try hard.
And I think your kids are going to turn out just like you, very successful.
Jorge, if you can hear me, how old are the kiddos?
I got a daughter that's Isabella, that's almost 17 here in a month, and then a 14-year-old boy, JD, and about to be 11 as well, Maximo.
Awesome. Congratulations. You're definitely in it to win it. I'm right there with you. Some fun years.
Yeah, they're a little bit older and can handle themselves, so that kind of helps out a lot.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so in the mortgage industry, goodness gracious, that's on fire right now, I'm guessing.
It is. Yep. It's like I was telling Steve, I mean, it's been nonstop. Yesterday, I left the office right after 9. Today, trying to get away a little bit earlier than that, but just happy to be here. So it's an honor.
Well, we appreciate what you do for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. No, thank you all. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
Awesome. So just so many awesome people that you have assembled to be part of your podcast.
Well, I mean, what a transition. Speaking of awesome people, I'm in the room full of 5 other awesome people right now that are all helping me out. 3 of them get drafted, right, because they share my last name as my wife and my daughters, which are doing a fantastic job. The other 2 are here because they have big hearts. So I have a young man off to my left that's helping me out, and he's doing a fantastic job. And of course, I wouldn't rather have anybody else other than the Rochelle Grossman in to help out with trying to facilitate all of this and help me find the right words as we work through our launch party. So thank you for your time.
It's my pleasure. And hopefully we're a little bit entertaining here. We want people to have fun. We want to celebrate what you've done. We want to showcase what you have worked so hard to put together for On Time, On Target, the podcast that we are officially launching tonight. And we want to give folks a little sneak peek of when they subscribe, some of the amazing people that they're going to hear their stories.
Yes, and that's a good transition, because the one you're going to hear from next is I know, right? It's just so easy. It's like, you should be on the podcast with me to help me when I'm fumbling through words. But the next guest that you're going to have, I've been a fanboy of this individual, and I use that term, because I consider him a role model from way back. And when I say way back, he met me when I was a 17-year-old at Iowa State University. Here he is, a senior, so I'm probably not even supposed to be talking to this guy. And I go through Rush Week at this very cool fraternity, which I ended up joining, and absolutely amazing experience. But I met Chick Herbert on like day 1 of Fraternity Rush, and I was like, this guy and Jeff Roseland, who went by Rosie, I was like, if I turn out even half as much as these guys, my life's complete. So welcome, Chick. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, Steve. Nice to see you. Thanks for the invitation.
You bet. Well, tell us about your book. That's we talked in the podcast about all the different experiences that you've had, but at the end of the day, you kind of captured that in a manuscript to help leaders out there. So talk about your book.
Well, I'm proof that anybody can write a book. So if you have any doubt, look at this. The book is a culmination of a lot of things in my career, and it's called It Begs the Question. And it's a leadership and coaching book. It's agnostic to whatever your profession or industry. And even if you're not a leader of people by title, but you are an influencer. And the whole premise is, as a leader, a lot of leaders get stuck in what I call working in the system, which means they get caught up in the urgency. They do a lot of things that, quite frankly, their team ought to be doing, and and they do it because urgency creates a lot of bad habits, and it's easy to be busy. It's hard to be brilliant. And so the idea is, how do you ask questions to build the critical thinking skills of your team so that people aren't so dependent on you as the leader, and you build capacity in others, which allows you to work on the system and move the things forward that are really going to transform the team, the organization, or whatever it is that you're leading.
Well, when you hear Chick talk, and he talks about it being agnostic, we can't even go into his resume because we'd run out of time quickly, or Zoom would send me a big bill, because he's such a breadth of experience, often to CEO coaching, but on top of all of that, high-powered jobs across several different industries, writing a book, out on his own, keynote speaking. On top of that, he married the woman of his dreams that he met at Iowa State, and has three young sons, one of which I know served in the military. So just so proud of everything you've done, Chick, with you and your family, and just so impressed. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, thanks. And I feel the same way about you and your beautiful family, and appreciate your service and sacrifices and the sacrifices of your family. So as Steve knows, my middle son was deployed to Afghanistan, and my older son also served but wasn't deployed. And I just have I've always had an appreciation, but being the parent of a soldier in a war zone, it certainly gives you a different perspective and appreciation for the sacrifices that everybody makes as part of that lifestyle. So
sure,
thank you.
Bet. And one last story that we had a chuckle over is we had another fraternity brother, Dan Cosgrove, that one day blew up his Facebook page because he got an opportunity to go out on an aircraft carrier. And that's something that literally every red-blooded American, if you have flags everywhere, if you love it, just, you'll never, it's so hard to be able to get that tour, but yeah, it's amazing to watch. And then all of a sudden, I kind of chimed in with, oh yeah, I got the opportunity of a lifetime to do that too. And so did Chick. So Chick, close with your opportunity there to go out on the carrier for us.
Well, it was funny because I got an email at work, my day job, and it was from the Department of Defense. And I thought, oh God, what did my kids do? And this was probably 8 years ago. I've got 3 boys. And long story short, it was an invitation to participate in this program. And they said, you get to go to sea for 24 hours with the U.S. Navy. You can either go to San Diego and go to a ship that would be in the Pacific, or you can go to Jacksonville and you can go to a ship that is on station in the Atlantic. And I said, well, how do I get out to each of the ships? And they said, helicopter to the missile destroyer in California, and the aircraft carrier, you get to fly out on a plane. And I said, you mean I get to do the arrested cable land, I get to do the cat shot off, and I get to be like Maverick or Cruiser? And they said, yes. And I did. And oh my gosh, I had a smile pasted on my face, not only that day leading up, the 24 hours aboard, but about the next 6 months afterwards. It was so amazing.
I could talk all day about that experience. How cool was that, Chick? Oh my goodness.
Yes, aviation stories will, aviation stories will start hijacking the podcast if we're not careful. But I did want to bring that up. That's one worth hearing, that's for sure. We do talk about that on the episode, so check it out. And also, really looking high level accomplishments all the way around. Listen to Chick, you'll be a better person for the 25 minutes later when you're done.
Thank you. Very kind of you to say, and it was an honor to be on be a guest on your podcast, and certainly an honor to be here tonight. So thanks for including me. It means a lot.
You bet. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Have a good night.
Thanks.
So cool. And so many of us who are leaders or business owners, one thing he said really resonated with me, and that is, we spend so much time putting out the fires, dealing with the urgency or what we have to do today. We forget about how we need to lead the overall organization to keep it growing and to keep it going.
Absolutely. That is certainly something that the military has kind of figured out, because when you go into a squadron, you have often a commander and a DO, which is your director of operations. And the sole role of the DO is to make sure that things continue to go around, so the commander can lead, step back, take the big picture, and be able to soak it all in and do what's best for the people. And the next person we have coming up is Burke Speed, who's also a fighter pilot. And of course, you can probably tell with that transition, he and I worked together. He was my DO for better part of a year. And the explanation of the DO is there's a black box called the organization, and the DO makes the organization go around no matter what. And then the commander kind of goes around and does damage control for all the, the DO focusing on the mission. So pleasure to have you on, Burke. And before I hand it over to you, you know that in the flying world, we have these funny call signs. Mine happens to be Cruiser. A lot of you know that already. But when you get a part of your leadership team, when you're a lieutenant colonel and bounce around, you often get somebody that comes inbound to be your number 2 or your commander. And with that, I see his name. I didn't know him, and somebody else knew him. It's like, oh, that's Disco. And I was like, I like him already. Get him into the office. I can work with this guy. So Disco, Burke, welcome, sir, to the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on the show, Cruiser.
All right. I see all your flying stuff. Sorry about that. All your flying stuff in the background. So 20-year fighter pilot. Tell us about some of the cool places you went, since you traveled significantly more so than I did in my 20 years.
Yeah, I've been very blessed. We've gotten to live in Japan and Korea. I spent 9 years in various places in Europe. And then as I was talking to Cruiser on the podcast a couple of days ago, I visited a few places that I'd love to take the family, and quite a few places I'm glad I didn't. They weren't necessarily the best garden spots either, but it was all quite an adventure.
Oh, that's great. And why I brought Burke on is not, I mean, he's a retired full colonel, so a very distinguished career inside the military. But he stepped out and did something that it surprised me to hear him when he popped up on Facebook as a fiction author, and he kind of surprised himself. So the story's so good. Do take a quick 60 seconds to kind of tell us how the idea came to you.
Well, it may sound a little cliche, but basically I had a series of dreams that really stuck with me, and I couldn't get them out of my head. And after quite some time, I realized that maybe the only way I was really going to get beyond it was to get it out there on paper. And once I began, it just sort of turned into something that came from the heart, and that really a lot of it is tailored towards veterans. I have a large part of it, which is a large part of my heart, and things that are important to me. So in the end, I sort of poured my heart out in this story that sort of came to me, and in the process, it was a bit of a catharsis, to use one of my big words there, to help get the story out, and I hope it's something that really resonates with others.
Well, I love the story, and I can only imagine the pain that it is to go through. I only wrote I have 3 master's degrees, and they made me write something every time. You know what? I just didn't like it. So maybe if I could make stuff up, maybe now there's something. Maybe all right. Maybe I could do that. But the insight that Disco will give you if you check this out, he is one of the most humble servants I've worked with. So to get him to tell the story of the highs and lows of all of this is really impressive. And it's no easy journey. So I tell you, if you have anybody out there, and it wasn't self-published, it was through a house. So, I mean, that's the full journey that you got. And I'm very proud of you for making that accomplishment. And thanks again for sharing that to us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me on. It's such a great group of individuals you have on the lineup tonight. I'm honored to be here.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Judy Stavely, Dr. Judy Stavely. And I've known Judy, I can't say forever because she didn't go to Iowa State, but it seems like I've known her just as long. We met up in Alaska, which is, the military takes you crazy places. So we met up in Alaska, which is where my youngest daughter was born. So the whole time we were up there, you can bring her up, we always wonder where was Judy, because there was all these squadron events, and it's so tough for her to make the functions for everybody because she was so busy all the time. Professor, and then we always thought she was FBI. Evidently, she's still trying to claim that she wasn't. But Judy, welcome to the show. Just say hi to everybody and tell us a little bit about yourself. This is great. Always love seeing you.
Well, congrats, Stephen, on this new launch. I'm very excited about it, and I'm very proud of you for doing this. And hello, everyone. I think I taught a lot of individuals forensics, and as a professor for 15 years, everybody loves the forensic stuff. But I did teach, biotechnology and other courses too.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And then now that you're out in DC, tell us about, or Maryland area, but tell us about the Platform magazine that you're the CEO of.
Yeah, so, being a military spouse, we traveled everywhere. We met a lot of inspiring people, and our network grew just like yours did over the years. And when I became a professor, one of my students approached me about putting a magazine together. And I had no clue. I used to write for magazines and promote health and wellness. And as I was a runner, share my tips of running and how to get people out there to do a 5K, half marathon. And Trish approached me one day after biology class and said, "Hey, Professor Stavely, will you help me put, a magazine together? I can't find an internship, and I'm a graphic designer." And I kind of advised her, I have no clue, how to do this, but we can work together on it, on the weekends or after hours and see what we can accomplish. Well, she started developing, her talents, and she does beautiful covers. She's done all the covers for the magazine and a lot of the graphic designs. And then over the years, we grew the team. We brought on my daughter, Monique, and she's an artist also. And then we brought in Lauren, her friend, who was also a graphic artist. So, all the artists do all their nice talents to make the, magazine nice and pretty. And then we brought in a friend to look for stories because, of course, I didn't have time to do this as a full-time job. But everybody started wanting to help out and do something good for the magazine, because it's basically a community-based magazine to highlight the goodness of others, and inspire others to do the same. So we had you in the magazine, in the men's entrepreneurial magazine, highlighting you and your business. And I think we did 50 males in that magazine, and all of them were either CEOs, but it's still popular. People still download it, still read it, and they get inspired by it and said, "Hey, if he can do it, I can possibly do it."
Well, one of the things I like the most out of our podcast interview, and I didn't know if you intentionally said it or, but I had not thought of this myself, was, you talked about the name of the magazine being the platform. So it's a platform for others. So, and she openly requests you to send her good stories, right? Always looking for good stories.
Yes, please send your stories.
The second part of that, which I didn't really catch until you started talking about developing your team and how much it's really a platform for them to showcase their talents, and that it's also opened doors for them. So what a great entrepreneurial effort to go forth and give both sides of the equation there. So that's very cool.
Yeah, hats off to the team. Go ahead.
It's called the Platform magazine.
The Platform magazine, and we're international. We're on. We go live every month on Ankerstar.com. They can search for it. We're right next to Vogue, all the fancy magazines that are out there. So, anybody can download it on any digital platform. So on Androids, their laptops, iPhones, their iPads. And if they want a printed copy, we have a distributor that distributes across the globe, MagCloud. And, they just go to magcloud.com and they can get a printed copy from them or download it. They get a free issue, PDF issue if they buy a printed copy. So there's plenty of areas that you can go and get the magazine from.
All right. Well, I hope to see you in October sometime for a private event you're having out there. Appreciate the invite to that. And hopefully we can travel and gather and do all the fun things.
I know. With all this.
Right, so always a pleasure to have you on, and thanks for taking some time to be with us, Judy.
I'm glad I could make it.
Nice to meet you, Judy.
You too. And hopefully we can meet in person soon.
I'd love that.
Okay.
Right.
Well, congrats again, Stephen.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Judy.
Okay.
Well, you've assembled quite a team. Like, each person is just a rock star in their own right.
They are, and they have their stories to tell. And I was trying to look at, I looked at my circle, And when I say that, I mean the network circle. And as I'm branching out, I'm looking at different people, and I had like 50 names. And I think I reached out to like 15 total, and couldn't have everybody, of course, because people had stuff going on. And I started about a week ago. So, next time around, I'll give you a little more notice. So thanks for my late breaking great idea. But the next individual we have with you, I've been working with for about 3 years now. He is an investor. So we talk about he's kind of specializing in the EV space, so electric vehicle. Everybody thinks Tesla, but that's kind of here. And then there are a ton of other companies out there. And so I was going to bring him on as an investor, but then also he has another great story to tell, is that he spent 2 years as an NFL player. And one thing, we don't have him live with us right now, but we have a little snippet here of about a minute. And his story to the NFL is he didn't go right to college out of high school. So, you kind of think of a normal story that would be high school, excel, college. Had some challenges in there. He's very candid about those challenges, which is the perfect story that you need to hear if you are 16 or 17 and you are very gifted like Vic is. And yeah, it's not an easy path. So you're going to always believe in yourself, but there are some challenges along the way, and he overcame those challenges and made it into the league for 2 years. So let's go ahead and play his video and see what Vic has to share with us.
Yeah, it was rough. At the time, I wasn't thinking about saving. My wife was, because that's just how she is. She's a saver.
That's good,
and,
right?
Right. Really great. Really great.
So I'm not just saying that because she's right over there, right? So.
Right. So she's a saver. But at the time, I would just, because it's one of those things, I had it. So when my mom or my family was calling, I was like, okay, I'll send them that and send them this, and I'll pay the rent for the house for like 2 or 3 months. And, it was one of those things where I felt like I wasn't just blowing it. I was spending it on my family, but
right.
Not thinking at the time I should have just focused on securing myself just in case football is not guaranteed, which is not.
So yeah, that's the best part, and that's why we wanted that clip to show you guys, is because it's not, right? And I even in the fighter world, it's different, but there are similarities, and that you can get what's called a Superman complex, to where you are very self-confident, you do have talent, and you start to think that you can do anything and it will last forever, and it will not last forever. Everybody comes to an end in the military. I remember, when I turned 40, they started saying, well, you're kind of old. So it's like, I don't really feel that old. Point of order, please. I think I could still do this. And they're like, well, if you kind of want to really kind of take it back a step a little bit, yeah, you've lost a step, just like most 40-year-olds, I guess, except for Tom Brady. But so yeah, so it's a great episode for Vic to have come on and share that story. Humble beginnings, some challenges along the way, and it's just a great story for you to hear. And the fact that he he's open about that, and then he's talking about now he pivots off into his next career, and it's investing, it's making money. So in there, you're going to hear us talk about an individual stock. I do give the full disclaimer, so that it's financial education, but so you have to do your own due diligence before you take action on it. But yeah, we talk about some very cutting edge sort of stuff. So it's always a pleasure when my phone, Vic texts me in the day, and all of a sudden I look down and I see it's a ticker symbol. And it's like, I haven't heard of that one. And I look at it and it's like, oh, well, very interesting.
That may be something. Well, this has been so awesome, so fun. I want to subscribe. Cool. Let's give people one last time to tell them how they can subscribe to listen to this and more.
There you go. So it's right there. If I could ever master that, it's kind of like the people that can write upside down that try to sell you timeshares and things. So Apple, go to Apple Podcasts. If you're not Apple, the other two there are iHeartRadio. Spotify, you could go to Deezer. There's some other names out there. Not on Pandora yet. That takes 2 months. We'll get to that. Search for my last name or On Time on Target. You'll see a square with me, my face, some financial stuff on it. Click on that. You can either subscribe if it's Apple or follow if it's not. And from there, you can take a picture of that and send it into the page. But you better do it, because I see the names being shooken, whatever the appropriate words are over there, because it is giveaway time.
$100, folks, $100. All right.
So I'm going to reach over here to the left. All right. I've got a name. I'm not going to read it, though. You're going to read it.
I got it.
All right.
I got it.
Yep, upside down. There you go.
All right. We have Kelly Donaldson.
Kelly Donaldson.
Yay!
Yes. All right. Well, hey, Kelly, thanks for listening in.
Get your phone ready. He's Venmoing you.
That's right. I mean, there's a request like right now on my phone. It's back over here. I literally, her husband, obviously good friends, were military, known each other for millions of years, it seems. Spent a lot of time in Mississippi together. So congrats, Kelly. You're $100 richer tonight. So thanks for listening and thanks for subscribing.
Well, this has been fun.
Yes, it really is. It's
First ever
Mhm.
podcast launch party, online, live streamed with video, with live guests, and we're putting it all together in a package deal with your podcast.
Yes, it's actually everything I envisioned and more out of trying. When I was like, "Hey, Rochelle, do you want to do this live thing?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, you know, that is working with Rochelle." So the answer is yes. And then there's all these follow-on questions, which can be detailed, by the way, but for all the right reasons, right? To make sure it goes off as a huge success. But she's like, "Send me some YouTube videos on it," and it's like, okay. So never did actually find a great example. So maybe we can put this onto the On Time on Target YouTube page and just kind of put it out there for somebody that wants to copy this, because I think it went great. I do appreciate folks taking the time to like and subscribe and review and all those sorts of things that help podcasts kind of get out there. If you like what I have to say, you're helping the cause as far as helping me reach more people.
I think people will like it. I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate working with you, and I appreciate the information that you give to so many people out there. I think the podcast is going to be an amazing success. So folks, subscribe. It's entertaining, it's funny, it's engaging, and I hope you'll enjoy it just as much as I enjoy the banter. So.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it. You have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody.